Hello and welcome. Another school attack by bandits, one student killed, 42 others, including staff and family members kidnapped from Government Science College, Kagara, Niger State. The President directs the armed forces and police to ensure immediate and safe return of all those abducted from Kagara. Once again, Senate asked President Buhari to declare a state of emergency on security following the worsening situation in the country. And deadly winter storm sweeps across southern United States. At least 21 people reported dead and millions left without electricity. Plus, we'll have business, sports, and later on international news from our London studios.
On business news tonight, International Monetary Fund (IMF) backs Nigeria's central bank directive banning cryptocurrencies transactions in the country.
On sports news tonight, Stefanos Tsitsipas comes from 2 sets down to beat Rafa Nadal to reach the semi-finals of the Australian Open.
And from Abuja, Minister of Defense optimistic of improved security in the country as House of Representatives Committee screens the newly appointed service chiefs.
It's a hydra-headed challenge that's put everyone on their toes, the problem of insecurity across the country. And just as efforts continued towards dousing the tension arising from the violence in the southwest and other threats, news broke today about another bandits' attack on the school in Niger State, where 1 student was killed and 42 others kidnapped. In his reaction, the President has directed the armed forces and the police to mobilize for the immediate rescue of the victims of the Niger school abduction. But for the Senate, it's time to walk the talk and is once more calling on the President to declare a state of emergency on security in the country amid recommendations for the adoption of new measures to tackle the situation. Now let's take a look at it as yet another school has been invaded by bandits, this time in Niger State, where 1 student has been killed and 27 other students, as well as 15 staff and family members abducted on Government Science College, Kagara. The attackers are said to have gained access into the school around 2 a.m. today, dressed in military uniform. Some of the students who escaped the invasion began moving out of the school premises immediately after the attack.
For students, members of staff and residents of Government Science College, Kagara in Niger State as they make frantic efforts at getting away as far as possible. At about 2 a.m., an armed group of people clad in military fatigue invaded the hostels and residents, breaking down doors, kidnapping anyone in sight. The school principal, who also escaped from the gunmen, gave his account.
So when they forced the door to open, before I know, before I even come and now burst into my bedroom and arrested me. There and then they now called me, bring me outside, that we should go to hostel direct. So they put me in front to the hostel, student hostel. So reaching there, they started arresting the student. So when the student discovered that they are thief, because when they went there, they were telling the student not to run. It is soldier. More confirm me, I saw the person that came to my house in a flag soldier uniform. The other one with the uniform of Nigerian army. The 2 of them. The other one wear black coat. There are 3 numbers that came here. So when after one we were there, they gathered most of the students. While some of the students started running into the bush. The little one they caught, which I cannot ascertain the number. We were there standing down, gather us together, and start touching us two. So when they started touching us two, already my family have already been arrested.
Some of the students who luckily escaped from the attack are not happy at the slow response of security agencies.
They started chasing students out in the hostel, and they followed them, and they were also shooting to the point that they killed 1 person. They shot him in the head, and they packed some people from the hostel and kidnapped them. They are still nowhere to be found till now.
Seriously, let government take action of this issue, because
All the education has turned upside down. We students now, we are not happy with what just happened.
School authorities are yet to ascertain the number of students abducted, as they are still taking stock and to be sure that only one student was killed.
Meanwhile, the governor of Niger State, Abubakar Bello, has been visiting the Government Science College in Kagara following the school invasion. After assessing the state of the school, he told the people that everything will be done to ensure the rescue of the kidnapped persons. Before his visit to Kagara, the governor ordered the immediate closure of all boarding schools in bandits-ravaged communities in the state, saying the action is necessary to save the lives of students in those areas, which according to him have already been taken over by armed groups. He made the comments at a briefing in Minna, the Niger State capital.
We are deeply concerned at these recent sad events and therefore call on the federal government to deploy all resources while we are looking at all options, both kinetic and non-kinetic, to ensure the safe return of victims of both incidences. We will not rest or sleep until we bring them back to their families. We are therefore appealing to all Nigerites to continue to pray for the safe return of our wives, fathers, daughters, sons. We need the understanding and cooperation of Nigerites at these trying moments to unanimously condemn all acts of criminality, banditry, and kidnapping with one voice. We also appeal to the general public to provide information that could assist the government and security agencies towards the rescue of the victims. I have also directed that all boarding schools within Rafi, Mariga, Shuru, and Muya local governments to be closed down with immediate effect until further notice.
Meanwhile, a federal government delegation has visited Minna, the Niger State capital, where they met behind closed doors with the governor of the state over today's abduction. Members of the delegation include the Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, National Security Advisor, Babagana Mongono, Inspector General of Police, Muhammad Adamu, and the Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed. Their visit followed a directive by the President to the armed forces and police to ensure immediate and safe return of all the students and the teachers abducted in the school. The team of security chiefs are to coordinate the rescue operation and meet with state officials, community leaders, as well as parents and staff of the school. President Muhammadu Buhari has given the assurance of his administration's continued support to the armed forces in their fight against terrorism and banditry.
The federal government will apply everything at its disposal, both kinetic and non-kinetic, reconciliatory measures to get all the students back safely. This is what we would want to happen under normal circumstances. I want to assure you that President Muhammadu Buhari, as far as is concerned, is resolved. He is determined to apply whatever it takes to make Nigeria safe and secure.
We assure Your Excellency we are going to work with our partners, with the community, and make sure that these students are returned unharmed. The other ones that were kidnapped while moving from Kontagora to Zungeru were also in contact with our partners, our cooperating partners within the communities and other security agencies, and I also assure you that we'll get them released.
And staying with the Kagara abduction, the Senate is asking the President to go beyond condemning the attack and declare a state of emergency on security in the country. The resolution follows a motion by Senator Sani Musa on the abduction of students from the Government Science College in Niger State today. The lawmakers condemned the attack and asked security agencies to immediately swing into action and ensure that the students are rescued.
May 14, 2014. Boko Haram terrorists abduct more than 200 schoolgirls from Government Secondary School, Chibok, Borno State. February 19, 2018. Boko Haram terrorists kidnap 110 schoolgirls from the Government Girls Science and Technical College, Dapchi, Yobe State. December 11, 2020. More than 300 schoolboys kidnapped in Kankara, Katsina State. Wednesday's abduction of students from the Government Science College, Kagara, Niger State, is a painful reminder of a dismal state of insecurity in the country and the penchant of terrorists and criminal gangs to target schools in the northern part of the country. During Wednesday's plenary session, the three senators representing Niger State vent their frustration at the abduction of the students and unrest in their constituencies.
Concerned that, like the other incidents of school children abduction that took place in Chibok and Dapchi several years back, if no immediate action is taken to rescue Kagara school students, their fate may be sealed in the hands of terrorists.
Can we rightly say that this government, I am sorry to say, that this government is incompetent in handling the security challenges in this country? Because this issue has been discussed here over and over, and there is no improvement. It is even getting worse.
It appears very obviously that the success these kidnappers and bandits got emboldened them to go into this particular school.
The Senate makes some recommendations.
Urge the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Muhammadu Buhari GCFR, to, as a matter of urgency, declare a state of emergency or insecurity in Nigeria. Those in favor of prior to say aye. Those against any die.
Meanwhile, Zamfara State federal lawmakers are asking the federal government to offer amnesty to the repentant bandits in the northwest. They are making this request during a briefing with journalists in the National Assembly.
It is our belief that the federal government should offer amnesty to those repentant bandits in the northwestern region, because we are convinced that these repentant bandits will be encouraged to contribute positively to society.
The caucus is calling on other states in the northwest, regardless of party affiliation, to confront banditry using the model of the Zamfara state government, which includes granting amnesty to repentant bandits and the establishment of rural grazing area in the state. Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
Governors of the 36 states under the aegis of the Nigeria Governors Forum are currently meeting at the presidential villa over the spate of insecurity in the country. And this will be the first physical meeting by the governors since the coronavirus pandemic hit the country in February 2020. The governors meeting today may not be unconnected with the recent clashes in some parts of the country and the attack on a secondary school in Niger State in the early hours of today. Meanwhile, governors elected under the platform of the People's Democratic Party are calling for an urgent decentralization of the Nigeria police, insisting that it's one of the solutions to stem the tide of insecurity across the country. In a communique issued after a virtual meeting, the governors also recommend that the president should convene a consultative meeting of the Nigeria Police Council to appoint an Inspector General of Police, either in acting or permanent capacity. While congratulating the new service chiefs, the governors demanded a complete overhaul of the national security architecture. In part two, after the break, 4 mobile policemen killed after suspected Boko Haram insurgents attacked Bayamari community in Yobe State. That's in a moment. Do join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Another school attack by bandits, 1 student killed, 42 others, including staff and family members, kidnapped from Government Science College, Kagara, Niger State. The President directs the armed forces and police to ensure immediate and safe return of all those abducted from Kagara. Once again, Senate asks President Buhari to declare a state of emergency on security following the worsening situation in the country. And deadly winter storm sweeps across southern United States. At least 21 people reported dead and millions left without electricity. Yet today we're keeping our eye on security, and a former head of state, General Abdul Salam Abubakar, has warned that if nothing is done to address the growing tension in the country, it might lead to a point of no return. He says the recent ethnic attacks happening in some parts of the country are unfortunate and are fanning the embers of disunity, fueled by cases of insurgency, kidnapping, armed banditry and robbery. While commending the security agencies for their sacrifices, General Abubakar appealed to the new service chiefs and the Inspector General of Police to rise to the challenge by rallying their troops and designing the best strategy for ending the menace.
We appeal to the citizens of our dear country who have borne so much pain and suffering to remain resilient and patient. Thousands of our people are homeless and refugees across the length and breadth of their own country. We know the difficulties that our farmers have faced in the last few years, and that the harvest will be a serious challenge this year. Therefore, let us all rally together in these hard times, make the required sacrifices, and remain vigilant, standing by one another. Thirdly, we appeal to the governors, the chief security officers of the various states, to please seize their swords, tone down their rhetoric, and take full responsibility for managing the divergent voices and frustration within their states.
4 mobile police officers have been killed after suspected Boko Haram insurgents invaded Bayamari community in Busari local government council of Yobe State. The police spokesman in the state, Dungsa Abdul Karim, who confirmed the incident to Channels Television, said 2 civilians also died from suspected trauma as a result of the heavy gun battle between the security personnel and the attackers. Although the military is yet to confirm the attack, a local source reveals that a boarding secondary school located in the community was also razed by the insurgents, but no student was harmed. Bayamari is 130 kilometers north from Damaturu, the state capital, which has not been under attack in the past 4 years, despite the several attacks on its environs. But over in Kaduna State, troops of the Nigerian army say several bandits have been killed in Ongwandankwo village in Brenengwari local government area of the state. According to the Kaduna State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Arawan, the bandits invaded the village, abducted 4 persons, a woman and 3 children, and then attempted to escape from the village when the troops laid ambush and intercepted them. Mr. Arawan explains that in the ensuing firefight, several bandits were neutralized while others escaped with bullet wounds. He also disclosed that 1 AK-47 rifle and some rounds of ammunition were recovered, while 4 of the victims were kidnapped as well and then rescued. Residents have been asked to report anyone found seeking medical attention or anyone with suspicious wounds to the nearest military and police formations or reach the Kaduna State Security Operations Room. Let's hand over to Abuja now. Here's Terry Ikumi. Terry?
Well, hello, Ijoma, and welcome to the nation's capital. As the debate rages on how best to tackle insecurity in the country, the Minister of Defense, Major General Bashir Magashi, is giving the assurance that the armed forces under the leadership of the new service chiefs are fully aware of their constitutional role of protecting the nation. He is confident that the nominees of the president will make the country proud in tackling the insecurity currently bedeviling the country. He said this when he led the service chiefs to the House of Representatives Committee on Defense for their screening. A week after the president's letter to the House of Representatives seeking confirmation of the service chiefs, the committees on Defense, Army, Navy and Air Force received the security heads led by the Minister of Defense. Chairman of the House Committee on Defense reminds the service chiefs of the importance of the offices which they seek to occupy, while the Minister of Defense gives assurance that the security heads will live up to expectations.
Nigeria as a country is blessed with brave and gallant soldiers, many of whom have paid the supreme price in service to the country. It is to their memories that we must get it right with our national security and help secure the peace for which they lost their lives.
Let me assure you that the armed forces of Nigeria today are fully aware of its constitutional role, and we are prepared more than ever before to subordinate the military to the civil authority. That we will do in order to promote the cohesion and national unity in the country. I have no doubt that those selected or those nominated by Mr. President will no doubt make this country very proud.
One after the other, the nominees who had at some point been at the forefront of the insurgency state their readiness for the task ahead and plans.
I intend to see a very professional armed forces, an armed forces that is effective, an armed forces that is agile, an armed forces that is result-oriented, and of course, that is loyal to constituted authority.
Emphasis will be particularly on whole-of-government approach and whole-of-society approach, where each and every Nigerian will be part of the security architecture to bring an end to our current problems.
I intend, as my vision, to leverage on all factors of national location, technology, training, teamwork, and synergy to re-energize the Nigerian Navy and enhance her as a well-motivated and ready naval force in the discharge of her constitutional mandate and other tasks in fulfillment of national security objectives.
I have carved out my focus to enhance and sustain critical air power capability required for joint force employment in pursuit of national security imperatives.
Pending their confirmation by the National Assembly, the hope of Nigerians, and as canvassed by experts, is for the security agencies to work together in terms of intelligence sharing to swiftly bring an end to the insecurity ravaging the country. Terry Ikumi, Channel. Meanwhile, Nigerians have been told to stand up and resist attacks by bandits. This is coming from the Minister of Defense, Major General Bashir Magashi, who insists that it is not only the responsibility of the military to fight banditry, but Nigerians should be able to withstand any aggression. The minister, who was speaking after the screening of service chiefs, also dissociated himself from calls for legalization of firearms in the country.
Is it the responsibility of the military alone? It's the responsibility of everybody to keep alert and find safety when necessary. But we shouldn't be cowards. At times, the banditry will only come with about 3 rounds of ammunition. When they fire shot, everybody runs. In our younger days, we stand to fight any aggression coming to us. I don't know why people are running away from minor, things like that. They should stand and let these people know that even the villagers, they have the competence and capability to defend themselves. But our own duty is to ensure no Nigerian is hurt, and we're capable of protecting the integrity of this nation. And we will continue to do it, even though we are so stretched. You know, this is an issue where probably even in the developed countries, they are still debating on it, whether to continue or not. But I don't advise Nigeria to start using firearms for personal use.
Still on security, the Zamfara state governor is asking northern states to embrace Ruga as a strategic means of ending the farmer-herders crisis. He told State House correspondents that he was summoned by the president to brief him on the security situation in the country in his state, adding that a 358 Special Police Force team has been deployed to the state to tackle the crisis. According to him, he inherited banditry from the previous administration, and in comparison, the state is currently experiencing relative peace.
Banditry activity is something that I inherited, which was ongoing for almost 8 years in the state. But due to my initiation of dialoguing with them, now Zamfara is very calm, and I have been calling my colleagues to sit down with all the stakeholders to discuss this and to find out the root cause of the crisis, so that they can be able to initiate the reconciliations and dialogue. I am constructing Ruga for them, like a settlement where we can contain some of them, because sincerely speaking, if we allow them going around, from one place to another, migrating from one state to another, we cannot come to an end to this issue. So the only thing the governors will do, and we are discussing on that, is to make sure we shall contain them in one place. The amnesty that people are talking about is someone, if you are a governor, if you wish to do that, you should know the way that you are going to do it. And the amnesty has been open to so many people, so many criminals. So it doesn't mean that if you are a criminal and so many activities, that all the people of that this are criminal. It's not like that. So we did not discuss anything about amnesty with Mr. President.
When the news at 10 returns, International Monetary Fund backs Nigeria's central bank directive banning cryptocurrencies transactions in the country. That's on business news. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the news at 10. Now let's bring you up to speed with our lead story about the attack on a school in Kagara, Niger State, where it is confirmed that 42 people are now in the custody of the bandits after killing one student. The attackers are said to have gained access into the school in the early hours of today, dressed in military uniform.
It was a rude awakening for students, members of staff and residents of the Government Science College, Gara in Niger State, as they make frantic efforts at getting away as far as possible. At about 2 a.m., an armed group of people clad in military fatigue invaded the hostels and residents, breaking down doors, kidnapping anyone in sight. The school principal, who also escaped from the gunmen, gives his account.
When they forced the door to open, before I know, before I even come and now burst into my bedroom and arrested me. There and then they now hold me, bring me outside, that we should go to hostel direct. So they put me in front to the hostel, student hostel. So reaching there, they started arresting the student. When the student discovered that they are thief, because when they went there, they were telling the student they not to run. It is soldier. More confirmly, I saw the person that came to my house in a flag soldier uniform. The other one with uniform of Nigerian army. The two of them. The other one wear black coat. There are 3 numbers that came here. So when after one we were there, they gathered most of the students. While some of the students started running into the bush. The little one they caught, which I cannot ascertain the number. We were there standing down, gather us together and start touching us two. So when they started touching us two, there and then my family have already been arrested.
Some of the students who luckily escaped from the attack are not happy at the slow response of security agencies.
They started chasing students out in the hostel, and they followed them, and they were also shooting to the point that they killed one person. They shot him in the head, and they packed some people from the hostel and kidnapped them. They are still nowhere to be found till now.
Seriously, let government take action of this issue, because all the education has turned upside down. We students now, we are not happy with what just happened.
With the figure released by the state government, more efforts may now be required to hasten the rescue of the students and other people kidnapped from the school.
From security, let's take a look at some legal matters now. In a bid to recover the cash value of more than 16 million barrels of crude oil allegedly diverted from Aiteo Eastern E&P Company Limited, a federal high court sitting in Ikoyi, Lagos, has granted an interim injunction directing 20 commercial banks to freeze the accounts of Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria Limited. Justice Oluremi Omoumi Ogutoyibo gave the order following an ex parte application by Aiteo Eastern E&P Company Limited, who is the plaintiff, with SPDC Limited listed as the first defendant. Other defendants are Royal Dutch Shell PLC, Shell Western Supply and Trading Limited, Shell International Trading and Shipping Company Limited, and Shell Nigeria Exploration and Production Company Limited, which are listed as second, third, fourth and fifth defendants. 20 banks where the Shell companies operate accounts in Nigeria are also named as respondents in the suit. When the matter came up in court, the judge was informed that the defendants had filed an application seeking to discharge the order. The judge adjourned further proceedings to Wednesday, February the 24th. A Nigerian who was arrested in the U.S. for his involvement in an $11 million computer-based intrusion fraud scheme, Obiwanne Okeke, has been sentenced to 10 years in prison. The acting U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia says he engaged in a multi-year global business email and computer hacking scheme that caused a staggering $11 million loss to his victims. According to the court documents, Mr. Okeke operated a group of companies known as the Invictus Group, based in Nigeria and elsewhere. The prosecutors said the conspirators obtained and compiled the credentials of hundreds of victims, including victims in the Eastern District of Virginia. The prosecutors add that his conviction affirms the FBI's worldwide reach, vigorously pursuing justice on behalf of American victims and ensuring that international cybercriminals are held accountable. Now, the prosecution team has tendered video evidence to back up its case at the ongoing OFFA bank robbery trial in Kwara State. The video evidence, in that video, 5 suspects confessed to the crime, saying they were co-opted into the crime by the late Michael Adiku, a dismissed policeman. The video was recorded at the police headquarters in Abuja. Justice Halima Salman had admitted 3 digital video discs as exhibits. However, the DVD player stopped playing at a point, and the case was adjourned to March the 15th and 16th. From legal matters, let's take a look at some business news now. Here's Anne Waudu.
Thanks a lot, Ijoma. Hello and welcome to Business News. The International Monetary Fund, the IMF, has backed the Central Bank of Nigeria's directive for banks in the country to prevent transactions in cryptocurrencies. At a special virtual press briefing on the recently published 2020 Article 4 IMF Staff Report for Nigeria, the IMF resident representative to the country supported the CBN's concerns that cryptocurrencies could be used for illegal transactions such as money laundering and drugs. He also says that many central banks around the world have all taken similar policy decisions on digital currency transactions, as it remains a global concern despite its growing adoption. Meanwhile, the IMF representative says that instead of raising taxes, government should rather strengthen its administration by expanding the tax base and blocking leakages. The African Development Bank has signed a loan agreement of $668.1 million with the Japan International Cooperation Agency to help support the 15th replenishment of the African Development Fund. A statement by the lender says the agreement reached by its concessional arm, the African Development Fund, was signed by the JICA Chief Representative in Côte d'Ivoire and the Acting Group Senior Vice President, African Development Bank, in her capacity as Chief Financial Officer. It adds that the replenishment was approved in December 2019 by ADF donor countries and JICA in extending the loan on behalf of the Japanese government to help promote industrial human resource development, innovation, and investment. Let's head to the stock market, where lower prices of equities at the NSE today failed to attract investors, as extending profit-taking for the second day in the week, with a total volume of shares traded dropped by 31.5%. Let's hear the details from Ini John.
Thank you so much and welcome to the stock market reports. Ooh. Well, it was another bearish day today at the stock exchange, a strong signal that there's cautious trading going on as investors await more economic figures before making a decision. For one, the GDP figures are expected tomorrow, Thursday, the 18th. Meanwhile, the all-share index fell marginally by 0.07% to close at 40,465.32 basis points, just a little lower than yesterday's figures, leaving the equity capital at over 21 trillion naira. On the activity chart, 244.20 million shares valued at 2.65 billion naira change hands in a little over 4,000 deals. Industrial goods, banking and consumer goods sector were responsible for Wednesday's decline, while the other two counters we track were positive. FBN Holdings was the most traded stock by volume with 52.3 million units traded, while GT Bank was the most traded by value at 512.52 million naira. Well, that's the stock market report. I'm Ini John McQuarrie.
I will see how the rest of the week goes, but that's business news for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Ijoma.
Welcome back, and to some rather sad news from Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, where 3 people, including a child, have died after fire gutted an IDP camp, destroying 620 makeshift homes. The chairperson of the State Emergency Management Agency said that over 3,000 IDPs have been displaced by the inferno. In the meantime, many have been taken to hospital for the treatment of burns. The fire is believed to have been caused by heat from cooking activities in the makeshift tents. At least 21 people have died in the U.S. state of Texas as temperatures drop, bringing winter storms and tornadoes to the country's southeast. The National Weather Service says more than 150 million Americans are currently under winter storms, many of them without power. Here's Simon Pusey with more international news now in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Dozens of vehicles have blocked key roads across Myanmar's main city of Yangon in order to prevent military and police from moving in on protesters. Tens of thousands of people have gathered in the streets in the biggest protests yet since the coup that has seen Aung San Suu Kyi and other leaders detained by the military. The United Nations is concerned of an imminent clash between the armed forces and protesters. Images have emerged of the police firing rubber bullets and tear gas at demonstrators as additional soldiers have been deployed in cities where protests have been planned. The military junta has guaranteed that it will hold an election and hand over power, and it has accused protesters of violence and intimidation. The United Nations has said it will soon question the United Arab Emirates about Princess Latifa after a video has emerged where she claims to be held hostage.
I've been by myself, solitary confinement.
Princess Latifa, who is the daughter of Dubai's billionaire ruler Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, has accused her father of holding her hostage in Dubai since she tried to flee the city in 2018 in a villa converted into a jail with no access to medical help.
We raise human rights issues around the world, including with our partners in the Middle East, including with UAE.
UK Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab has said that Britain would like to see proof that Latifa is still alive. Thousands of protesters have taken over some of Barcelona's streets in support of a rapper convicted in a free speech case. Pablo Hasél faces 9 months in prison on charges for glorifying terrorism and slandering the Crown and state institutions over tweets and song lyrics. Mr. Hasél has been taken to jail after the police stormed the university where he was barricaded to avoid arrest. 15 demonstrators have been arrested and 33 people have been hurt, including 17 officers, because of clashes between protesters and riot police. At least 21 people have died as the winter storm that has brought deadly freezing winds grips the southern and central United States. Millions of people are currently without electricity in Texas as the winter storm has pushed the state's power grid to the brink of collapse. Minnesota has registered temperatures below -39 degrees and South Dakota of -26. Texas officials have requested 60 generators from the Federal Emergency Management Agency to use in hospitals and nursing homes. South Africa has received its first batch of Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine after the country paused the rollout of AstraZeneca jabs. The Johnson & Johnson single-dose vaccine has shown to be effective in preventing serious illness and death from South Africa's dominant coronavirus variant. 80,000 shots are expected initially as the country will prioritise frontline healthcare workers. Italy's Mount Etna has filled the sky with orange smoke and ash after an eruption. Europe's highest and most active volcano has filled the sky above the Sicilian town of Paterno with a stunning huge bloom of orange smoke. Overnight, lava could be seen flowing down the side of the volcano. Mount Etna, which is 3,330 metres high, usually bursts into action several times a year. However, the last major eruption was back in 1992. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Nigeria's D Tigers have qualified for the 2021 FIBA Afro-Basket holding in Kigali, Rwanda, from August the 24th through till September the 21st. The former African champions defeated South Sudan 75-70 in the final round of qualifiers in Group D in Monastir, Tunisia. In the UEFA Champions League, FC Porto beat Juventus 2-1 in the first leg of their quarter-final match at the Estadio do Dragão. Mehdi Taremi got the opener within 2 minutes, and Moussa Marega made it 2 within just a minute on the start of half-time. Federico Chiesa, however, pulled one back in the 82nd minute, but it wasn't enough to deny Porto the victory. Dortmund beat host Sevilla 3-2 away. And that's a wrap on sports news. It's back to you, Jomo.
Thanks, Ayotunde. Reports reaching us from Osun State say that a fire is currently engulfing St. Anthony Catholic School, Iwo. It's unclear what led to the fire, but eyewitnesses say the inferno started from the science laboratory in the school. That is ongoing at the moment, and it is unclear what has started this fire at the St. Anthony Catholic School, Iwo, and that's in Osun State. And the main news again, there was another school attack by bandits today, this time in Niger State, where one student was killed and 42 other people, including students, staff and their family members, kidnapped from Government Science College, Kagara. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thanks a lot for staying with us. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Shortly after, we'll be returning to the coverage of the Kogi State Youth Interactive Dinner with Governor Yahya Bello, and that will be immediately afterwards. Thanks a lot for watching, and good night.